Yes. Hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening wherever you are. I'm your host, Dr. Haider Shah. On behalf of Kalwas, I would like to welcome all of you to this webinar. Thank you very much for joining us. Today we have a very interesting topic, and I'm really honored to welcome and introduce our distinguished guest speaker, who is going to talk about the dynamics of effective communication and presentation skills. The role of effective communication and presentation skills are very crucial in today's life, and particularly in the organization. As you know, that now interaction and communication within and outside of the organization is the key for organizational success. So as an individual, we must work on ourselves to develop communication and presentation skills, so you will get the right information and knowledge about it, as we have an expert with us today in this session. So stay tuned, because an amazing stuff are coming ahead in this session. So before we start, I would like to thank Kalwas for arranging such enlightenment session and their support and providing such a wonderful platform to us. The aim of the Kalwas is to give you the opportunity to interact with world renowned speakers, teachers, authors, researchers, experts, professionals, and businessmen to share their views, experiences, and tips, which will create impact and will enable you to learn new things and to develop yourself individually in order to contribute, as well as to contribute to the world at large. As our slogan is to come, learn, and share knowledge. So today we have very special guest who is my mentor, elder brother, a good friend, and a great human being who conducts the trainings with smiling face. So let me introduce him formally. He is currently working as assistant professor in Bahria University Islamabad campus. He has a vast teaching and field experience. He has worked on different levels. He remained a social and economic researcher, field interviewer. He worked as an English language instructor. He is a certified master trainer by Higher Education Commission Pakistan. He has been involved in training activities apart from students and corporate sector employees. He is also engaged in training activities for the faculty development. He is known for his excellence and admired by the world around the globe. So the one and only Sir Tipu Ismail. Thank you very much, Tipu Ismail, sir, for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Yeah.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everybody. A very good evening. And first of all, thank you very much, Dr. Haider Shah. I'm always obliged, and you always carry a very high opinion about me, and it's a matter of pleasure. It's a pleasure knowing you. And Assalamu alaikum, everybody who's gone on live. And my name is Tipu Ismail, as you know. And today we'll be talking about effective communication practices and presentation skills. And we'll be dealing with it on different levels, on conceptual level, and then coming to professional level, and then social level. And the dynamics of it always covers up almost all the three avenues. And unless or until we would bridge the gap, it is very difficult to become a good communicator. So we will start our session today, and I will start it with a very powerful verse by Iqbal. And you know our great poet, Eastern poet, Allama Iqbal. And he is also regarded as a visionary of Pakistan as well, and a very, very high caliber poet. And he once said that अपने मन में डूब कर पाजा सुरागे जिंदगी, that dive deep into your own inner. अपने मन में डूब कर पाजा सुरागे जिंदगी, तू अगर मेरा नहीं बनता न बन, अपना तो बन. Dive deep into your inner, okay, and try to explore the inner capabilities of yourself, so that you will have complete understanding of your own self, if not for others, for your own self at least. You see that? And the success starts from your own self. It is all about bridging the gap between your inner and the outer. It is all between bridging the gap between what is concealed and what is apparent. And we often lack in that. So we will start our discussion from the basic concepts, that what is communication skills? Actually, we always listen to this, and some of us would regard it as a very good use of language. Some of us would regard it as very good presentation. Some of us would regard it or connect it to confidence level. Okay. Some of us would regard it and relate it to our facial expressions and how confidently we speak out to other people, or we have command over situation? Well, I'll tell you, it's a little bit of everything. But it's a kind of a one thing that you must clarify yourself on it is that it is a skill. It is very later that we teach it as a subject in the unis or colleges or schools. But remember, it is not a plain subject. It is a skill based subject. So, skill always requires a clever approach, a good practice, a good expression. So remember this thing, it's a skill. If you consider it as a skill, you will think of improving it. Because if we consider it as a skill, we may give it more practice voluntarily. Okay? We may go through the avenues of our personality, which we think are not part of presentation skill or are not part of communication skills, but they are very active part of communication skill. Remember this thing. So for me, if we start with it, the communication is basically all starts with your own understanding of your own self. If I would take you to your childhood, what I started my webinar with the verse of Iqbal, "Apne man mein doob ke paa ja surage zindagi." If I take you back to your early childhood, let me tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, that we were once a very good communicator when we were all children. Remember, when we were not adults, we were all children up till the age of 7. We were all very effective, good communicators. We had excellent non-verbal communication, body language, tone patterns, sound patterns. Only thing we were weak in was the language. Now, in the latter part of our life, what happens is we become proficient in language by memorizing the sentence patterns, grammar, practicing it in everyday life. We become very good with the words, but we lose our manners. We lose our tone manners, the voice manners. That is called paraverbal communication. We would lose our physical manners. That is called non-verbal communication. So if I would classify communication, I hope most of you would know that the use of words that we call verbal communication is only 10% in the language. 10% in the language, the words, because language expresses itself with the words. You get it? So the language is the words, but the role of the language or words in the process of communication, the whole communication, is not more than 10%. Remember, a great gentleman called Albert Marabian had a rule about communication. He classified communication in terms of 10% maximum as words, 35% maximum as your voice patterns, whatever are your vocal cords presenting, and that includes so much. I will briefly tell you about that. And 55% of it goes to non-verbal communication, that is your body language and other aspects of body that are very apparent from your presentation, visual presentation, okay, from head to toe. Now, and it includes some other things. So 3 classifications you must remember: verbal, paraverbal, and non-verbal. In different parts of the world, they would consider paraverbal as part of non-verbal. So if you are told that non-verbal communication covers up 90% of communication, that is still okay. Okay. Now, at different parts of the world, people would express it differently, but it all comes down to the same concepts. Remember this thing. And what method I have chosen is a very easy way of making you understand. So we would walk away with something from this webinar. You see, we would walk away with some practical tips from this webinar. It will be unlike those trainings that we keep on attending by force and we learn nothing of it and we then come out and say, sir, training attend karli. So I don't want it to be like that. Okay, I want it to be a very active live session. Now, though I feel very closed by communicating, through this medium, which is not a very open medium. The best medium of communication is live, extempore speaking in front of the audience. Both of them having each other completely. You see that? So that is the best way of, and the richest method of communication is live. So let me now tell you of how we started communicating at the early age. So I'll take you step by step. Okay. It all starts in our early childhood with our perception. Remember this thing. If we cannot address our perception, we cannot address the communication errors or gaps. Remember this thing. And it is not at all the language I'm talking about. Language only covers up 10%. Please memorize it. Even if a person is speaking exactly like a native speaker, like a British person or an American speaker, still the language would cover up 10% in the process of communication in rendering the meanings out. Always remember this thing. So the rest of the meanings, rest of the expression goes out of the non-verbal communication, the 90% of it. So how is non-verbal communication and paraverbal communication is formed? How did we achieve it? How did we get it? How did we learn it? This is where I'm taking you back. And then I'll come to your concerns of the language as well. So when we were children, all of us, remember the age of primary or before that, even Montessori, under the age of 5. Remember, our perception is built in the environment or because of the environment in which we were born and we lived our early childhood. Remember this thing. Our perception at the moment, how people see us, is because of that early childhood in which our perception is built. All right? And how is your perception built? Your perception is built by the mannerism of your parents, of your brothers and sisters, of your larger family, of your society, the environment in which you lived in that early childhood, the composures which you got in terms of the language or the non-verbal communication. Your perception is exactly built according to that. Your religions, your notions of religion, your notions of modesty, your notions of intellect, your notions of hospitality, your notions of dressing, your notions of tone, your notions of how much you should be expressive in your body language, your notions of being sympathetic or empathetic with people, your notions of being expressive or reserved, conservative, all these came from your early childhood. All these. And why am I talking about these? Because all of this is part of communication. It is a very important part of communication. If you think by only improving the language and by grabbing a typical style of communication, imitating somebody, you will become a good communicator. I'm sorry, you will not. Unless or until you will understand yourself. So remember, our perception, Dr. Haider Shah's perception is built in the area he was born, in the family he was born, in the society he was born. The first impact on his personality was, or his perception was, of his society. Now what happens? Because of that perception, we keep on behaving all through our lives. All through our lives. We do understand at certain later stages in life that our perception is not addressing the problem at hand. Our perception is not addressing all the issues when we go to different cultures, when we go to different societies, when we go to different countries, when we go to different workplaces, okay? And when we go to different workplaces based in different cultures, like a workplace in England is totally different from workplace in China because both of them have a totally different culture. So remember this thing, all these notions are shaped up. You see that in our early childhood. All these notions. And that is how you can see Dr. Haider Shah as very different from Tipu Ismail. Even the way of communicating, even the way of behavior, even the way of talking, even the way of moving your hands, body. Now, Dr. Haider Shah might quite look like his elders, most probably closer to his father or elder brothers or his close family like uncles. Mr. Tipu Ismail might talk like his father. Remember, in the early childhood, people would often refer the children as if, oh, they're just like their father. Oh, he's just speaking like his father. His way of talking, his way of smiling, look at him. He just looks like his dad. Now, do you think a child is exactly like his dad? No. But because his body language, his non-verbal communication, his paraverbal communication is all borrowed from dad. So this is how your perception builds up your non-verbal and paraverbal communication. Now, what is my worry? What is my concern? My concern is that we are brought up in a way to cherish or entertain mostly one culture. Other than that culture, like we are hardly trained into universality. Okay, we are hardly trained, and we've heard our religion is universal, the approach should be universal, the communication style should be universal, but all of us are quite close in our cocoons that came out of the cultures. Hence, you see a big difference in even Pakistani society, which is a very, very culturally diverse society. From Karachi to Peshawar, you have 10, 15 different types of cultures, and you see in everyday life, they would hardly go on with each other. Formally, they'll be forced to behave properly, but socially, they'll be hanging out with their own culture the friends from their own culture or people from their own culture. And the dealings, the relationships, the friendships will be mostly in their own culture until you will not break the cultural barrier. So you get it. So we have paraverbal, non-verbal was brought up. We were brought up in a society and it was trained according to that brought up. Now we come to the language. With the start of our Montessori and start of our even kindergarten, Montessori, primary, high school, we are given lessons into language learning. We start with the basic expression, and there are two different thoughts. A very traditional method would teach you grammar, would teach you everything, tenses, and all that we learned in our own country as well. A very progressive approach will teach you how to appreciate language, will teach you the skills of the language, that is reading, writing, speaking, and listening, like it happens in Edexcels and Cambridge O-level, A-level exams. I mean, those children are hardly taught any grammar, but they are given practice into grammar. They are given practice into all these four skills. So eventually they become better, you see, speakers, better listeners, better writers, and better readers. So we traditional people would lack in most of these things. You see, main problem in Pakistani society is that traditional students are at times good at grammar, but they are very weak at presentation. They are poor at presentation. Why? Because never given practice. They are always asked to write and read, write and read, write and read. Whereas people from O-level, A-level backgrounds, they are expected to give more presentations, even in their schools, and then right through colleges. So by the time they reach the unis, they do not have journal expression issues or journal communication issues. So remember, this was a point typically addressed to Pakistani society. Okay. Now I'll go journal again. So what's the cure addressing the perception issues now? We have already understood that our non-verbal communication, our paraverbal communication is shaped up because of the culture, because of the perception. Now there were too many gaps in our perception because we are taught to behave in a certain direction according to certain culture. Whereas for universality, you have to accept every culture as respectful, every culture as wholesome, every culture in which you can survive. Now remember, we as Pakistanis are not regarded as very good universal communicators. Honestly, why? Because most of us would not break our cultures or cultural barriers. That is why when you visit any country abroad, the first thing you keep on hearing is, oh, he's from Pakistan, he's a Paki. Why? Because you keep on behaving the same way. When I stayed for 5 years in UK, I never heard this word. Never heard this word. Why? Because I played it a bit clever. I went in there, landed in there, I understood their culture, read it out completely, understood their social life, then I started behaving accordingly. So, and I would respect the norms of their culture. So they would not call me a Paki because they would not see a person behaving in an alien culture while living in a different country. So remember this thing, the word was playing it clever. So I want you to play it clever. Everybody, a good language communicator is never regarded as a good communicator. Only a good presenter here on the stage is never regarded as a good communicator. Only presenting a good paraverbal or non-verbal acting on the stage and giving impact to people by high tone or by aggressive body language will not make you a good communicator. What makes you a good communicator is adaptation, playing that game cleverly, and you must play it cleverly. Now, what do you have to play cleverly? Remember, I told you in the beginning of the webinar that it's a skill. It's a skill, just like playing football, playing any game. It's a skill. Now, how to play means giving it a practice according to the culture in which you are living and communicating. That means I belong to a certain culture. I would go to a different society. It is necessary for me to cleverly first understand that society, people, local culture, and adapt that culture so I can communicate with those people on the level. Otherwise, they will always feel threatened. They'll always feel me as alien, as a stranger, and they might feel threatened of me as somebody who might not do something, who might not destroy their culture, who might not violate them, who might be offensive, who might be aggressive. They might be taking it as such. Remember, a Pashtun might look very aggressive in Lahore, but in Peshawar, he might look very normal. Just because of the way he would speak out, he would behave. You see, a stare in Karachi, a staring in the eye in Karachi might not mean anything to people, might be that you are noting something. A stare in the eyes in Lahore might make people do jokes on you, make fun of you. Staring at me, what's happening, ki ho raha hai? But a stare in Peshawar might put you in a lot of trouble. You know that. Why? Because in Peshawar culture, staring is not allowed. Staring is either done by an extremely close friend or an enemy. No third person would stop and stare at you in Peshawar or in KP culture or in Baloch culture. You know why? Because it's cultural. And let's not say culturally something wrong or right. I'm not discussing whether any culture is right or wrong. I'm saying how to survive in every culture. Okay? So it's playing that game cleverly. Like, for example, if you go to any European country like Germany, now German people are very polite. They are very, very polite nation, like Japanese are. So are the Germans. And they would not know so many things that the world knows, like getting late to the work, getting absent without any reason, making excuses. German nation does not know any of these things. Mostly they are very good and skilled workers, the proper environment. Now, if a German, which is quite a low context culture, would come and visit an Asian country like Pakistan or India or Bangladesh or other countries, which are quite high context culture, probably a common expression from Pakistani culture might look offensive to him, might look aggressive to him. You see that? Like an Arabs, I'll give you another example. Arab people who are very fond of speaking loud, because in Arab countries, loud voice is regarded as symbol of authority. Okay, symbol of authority, control, manly. Now, an Arab going to Germany might offend so many Germans by speaking loud. So this is what I mean, play it clever. Okay, we mostly do not play it clever. Like, we go to any country, any culture which is different from us, and we want them to accept it as we are. We think, no, I will remain as I am and let other people accept me. Well, that is not related to your honesty. That's not related to your integrity. That's how cleverly you play this game of communication, so that you can express maximum meanings, maximum expression to the other person. That's the purpose of communication, remember. Okay. Now, since it is a very, very vast topic, everybody, it's very hard to bring it down, but I'm trying to bring it down. Now, with that, I'll tell you what is in the verbal, paraverbal, and non-verbal. Then we will move on from there. Now, what is in our verbal is complete use of language, including the tenses, words, how they are written, how they are spoken. Remember that. What is paraverbal? Paraverbal includes all your voice patterns. Voice patterns include your pitch, your tone, your volume, loud or low, your speed of speaking out. And what is your speed of speaking? Like, if you remember, Australians are a very quick speakers of English language. Bam, 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 bam. I mean, immediate delivery. They speak very quick. British are very decent speakers. I'm talking about British formal class, not street language. So British people would try to keep their upper lip flat. They would try to have their shoulders erected. And you see, they would try to get back and speak in a very elegant manner with a style, and often acting according to that style. I mean, look at Americans, how they speak. It feels like Americans just want to say something. How they say it doesn't matter. They would say it out. You see that? Now, whether the body language is going wild, expressions are going wild, lips are popping out, the nose is, you see, it's like trembling, the eyes are swollen out, they would not care. Americans would try to remain as expressive as any high context culture would be. Whereas, look at British, they're totally different. Both speakers of English language. Then if I take you to Australia, see, Australians would not be very bodily active, but very quick speakers of English language, very rapid delivery. Okay. So, same language used by three different cultures differently. That means we have concluded one point in the last 20 minutes, 25 minutes discussion, that communication, everyday communication, social communication is strictly cultural. Remember that thing. If you bridge the cultural gaps in terms of understanding, in terms of adapting, believe you me, you will not have problems in body language, problems in voice pattern, and problem in the language. So you have to play this game very cleverly. Now, dealing with all these classifications into your professional life, you have to be very clever. Again, there is a work ethic, work culture in different parts of the world. Like American or German or Japanese work culture is very strict in terms of competitive edge, in terms of punctuality, in terms of responsibility. They are very strict. I mean, as loose body language or voice pattern the Americans might look like, but they are very good at working. They are very good at getting the job done. Okay. So their work ethics is very different. Now remember, your professional communication also happens according to your work environment, according to the culture in which you are going. Suppose if you are going to work for a multinational organization, you have to adapt to the universality, more universal patterns. By welcoming every culture in, you will show yourself as a very positive minded human being. Now, and then you need to break your own cultural barriers. Remember that thing. If you have learned from your own culture in certain way, like I was giving you example in the start of Dr. Haider Shah and me myself, we belong to different places. If I go back to my own village, it is very necessary for me to behave according to my village culture in which I was brought up and use the language as they are using, so that I would not look like an odd man out. I would not look like a stranger. If Dr. Haider Shah would go back to his own village or his own city, he would try to dress like, he would try to behave like, he would try to speak like his own people, so that they would not find him a stranger. Okay? So you see, in Islamabad, we have a very good example of diverse cultures. We come to Islamabad and then people come to Islamabad from all different parts of the world. Or if you look at the societies like British society, like American society, they are very, very diverse, culturally diverse societies. More than 80, 90 different cultures hanging around in America in terms of immigrants. And they have integrated them, tried to integrate them. But remember, these cultural problems are not that easily, sorted out. That is why even in America, if you see people coming from Spain, they'll be hanging around in certain area. People coming from India, they'll be hanging around in certain areas. People coming around from Mexico, they'll have their own neighborhoods. People coming around from Jamaica, they'll have their own neighborhoods. If universality is that easy, if bridging the cultural gaps are that easy, they'll be hanging around together, but they don't. Why? Because very difficult of taking out something from your mind that you have learned in early childhood. Now, making it further clear for you, everybody, most of the confusions, most of the problems that we find in our lives is because of the 90% we never address. And what is that 90%? Non-verbal communication, is your body language, is your voice patterns. This is where we never address these issues. We always, if somebody tells us to improve our communication, we try to improve our language. And in our cases, mostly it's the English language, which is pity. Honestly, it's not a French language, it's not a German language, it's purely English language. All right? If you speak a good English language, they would not care about your tone, they would not care about your body language, and they'll say, oh, look at them. I mean, they're lovely communicators. But I'll tell you, experts would think always differently. Experts consider how the language is spoken, not what is spoken. How have you behaved on the stage? Not what have you spoken on the stage. And this is what the audience takes as meaning. Let me tell you one thing. All of us are psychologically trained in picking up the meanings from body language and tones. Okay, I'll give you a very funny example now. I'll make the environment a little bit non-serious by giving you an example on this. What if I tell you something that my body or expressions would not reflect? Let me see whether you believe it or not. Let me see if I tell you like this that I like you. Would you believe me? You will never believe me. What if I tell you I hate you? I hate you so much. Would you believe me? You will never
No,
believe me.
never. True.
Now, why would you not believe me? If I ask you, Dr. Haider Shah, why would you not believe me, sir?
Yeah, because
What is
your
this?
expression, yeah, your expression and what you are saying, it doesn't match.
Okay, so that means my expressions and my voice, it matters most, or it matters more than my words. Yes or no?
Yes, completely agree.
So why are we so worried about our words all the time? This is
Yes,
the
very true.
biggest mistake that we commit in the presentations, on the stage, in professional lives, in social lives, that we are mistaken by this fact that it's only the choice of words, it's only the correct grammar, it's only the correct tenses, it's only the difficult words that matter and that will impress people. Well, I'll tell you that's totally wrong. If you use difficult words, the words people don't understand, people will not get impressed. They'll get depressed. If they don't understand anything, they will never be impressed. Rather, they will get depressed, okay, out of not understanding something. So remember this, it is always understanding, it is always going like this. So that means my body language and my word, my tone matters more. So let's correct it for all of us now. Next time when we're going to give presentations, next time when we're going to speak out, when we're going to give interviews, job interviews or journal interviews, we're going to tell people something, we're going to communicate with our brothers and sisters or people from outside our culture. Try to have focus on your body language and voice tones, please. Please. And I'll tell you one thing. I'll introduce you now two different concepts. Concept of high context culture and low context culture. You must understand culture before you become very proficient in communication skill. You can never become proficient in communication skills unless or until you would not understand the cultures in specific, because cultures are deeply ingrained with your way of communication. All right, your part of your communication is part of your culture. Always remember that your culture shapes up your communication patterns. What patterns? Body language and facial expressions. If you see, people in Great Britain would use very less body language, would use very less facial expressions. Listen to BBC News, and you would see very less movement in the body, less movement in the face, a very flat lip and erected neck, and a very sophisticated, elaborated delivery. If I take you to CNN, they are quite different. They move their head on sides. They would keep on their raising their eyebrows. They'll become sad. They'll laugh. CNN people are quite different. Why? Because of the cultural differences. It's the culture. If I take you now, bring you back to Pakistan, see, we are very active in our body language, in our facial expressions. We can't talk without it. All right? Even if we are not talking, we are showing it so much that people ask us, Yaar, tu udaas hai. You are sad. You are angry. We keep on denying. No, 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 no. I'm not sad. I'm not angry. But your body is telling them. Your facial expressions is telling them. And that is how you cannot hide. So remember, everybody, be honest to yourself. Bridge the gap between your inner and your outer, between what is concealed and what is apparent, and you will become excellent communicator. I keep on look like smiling because I'm smiling in my heart. I keep on look like in a light mind because I'm light minded here. You
Yes.
see that? It is because of that. It's very difficult that I'm sad in my heart and I look very happy out here. You can show it, but for that you have to be extremely good actor, an actor like on the like of Hollywood or Bollywood. Then you can deceive people कि अंदर से आप उदास हैं, बाहर एक्टिंग कर रहे हैं. But
True,
for
very
general
true.
humanity, for common people, for professionals, you have to bridge this gap. Okay, create acceptance in your heart, create adaptability in your heart, that I am going to adapt myself, I am going to accept the presence of others, I am going to accept the cultures of others, I am going to give it respect, and it will be shown in your body language. Honestly telling, if you think by not liking any culture you can go in there and you can win their hearts, well, you're totally wrong. One day or the other, they will get you that you're making up, you're mocking it, you are creating a drama, but they will never believe you. Yet, if you start from the heart, believe you me, they will like you, they'll accept you. All right? For me, it has always played on a very positive note, because whenever I'll go to any class, I'll go blankly, I'll go with the feelings of adapting, accepting anything that will come in front of me. And Though I belong to certain culture, I never had in the last 22 years of my professional life, I never had any cultural issue, cultural communication problem with any of my students. All right. Just because I understood it, I played it, and I know I have to play it clever. I'll give you a simple example. One example from a professional life and an example from a social life. If I'm working in a multinational and we have people from different cultures and religions working in the organization, like I have a Jew working in the organization, I have a Christian working in an organization, I have a communist working in an organization, I have an atheist working in an organization, I have a Catholic there, I have a priest there, I have a person from Taliban in there, I have a person from a normal society. You see, we can talk about anything now. Things are getting clear now. So imagine if I take my culture into that office, into that organization, without entertaining anybody else's culture, take my localized concepts and opinions with me, I would end up having arguments with everybody. I will not properly behave with anybody. If I belong to, suppose I take my own culture, like I belong to KPK, and I keep on speaking loud, I would speak with a thrust of voice, with aggressive body social language. It will not go properly with them. Or if I behave like a person from Lahore, all the time cracking jokes, all the time laughing, all the time, making a non-serious environment, they would not like it either. Okay. If I try to behave like a person from Balochistan, remaining reserved all the time, not being very expressive, they would not like it either. So, what would they like? They would like you to behave on a universal level. And I'll tell you one thing, most of the world has already learned how to behave, how to bridge these cultural gaps, how to behave on a universal level. And that is why you would see these American multinationals, British multinationals, German multinationals making their way in all continents. They are working everywhere. Now, a McDonald's working in Pakistan, people don't go and tell their workers, leave Pakistan because you are Americans, we hate Americans. No, because they are serving halal in Pakistan. You see that? They're behaving like Pakistani society wants them to behave. You see that? Similar McDonald going to England, behaving totally differently there. Okay, going to Eastern Europe, behaving totally differently there. So these people, these cultures have already bridged the cultural gaps, the communication gaps that come out of the culture. And that's why these cultures or these businesses are making progress in every culture in the world. Because first of all, they cover up the communication gaps by bridging the cultural gaps. And if I tell you, I was recently going through a research, probably report or a survey, in which they asked the CEOs of all nearly 400 big companies that why have you lost most of your money? Or if I would shape it up, that because of failed communication practices, how much have you lost? And they would tell you the biggest amount of money that they would lose in any business is because of the failed or unaddressed communication practices. They behaved differently, something came out differently, it got interpreted differently in different cultures, and the businesses went down. So I can quote you so many examples from so many different big organizations, because I keep on teaching these case studies, that a simple communication error can bring a business down to its knees. Like, I can quote an example of Bernard Matthews, a very big turkey rearing firm in UK. I was right there in UK when this firm, which was a leading turkey rearing firm, the bird, the meat, turkey meat. That organization had they had a breakthrough of bird flu in one of their farms in Suffolk, okay, in England. Now, what happened was the company thought we will eradicate the disease and then come to public later and explain the situation. But you know what happened? Their competitors picked their weakness up. They said they have the disease in one of their farms and they are not going clean to people. You see, a little error. They exploited it. They talked to the media before them. They said Bernard Matthews has bird flu. They are going elusive. They are suspicious. And the business went down 35%. In Western countries, business going down 35% means almost ending up finishing your business. All right? Because there are so many other expenditures. It was only a little communication error that eventually resulted in the breach of trust. So communication practices often involve trust, often involve adaptability, often involve your transparency, okay? Clarity in your messages, clarity in your words, clarity in your body language. Like I told you, if I tell you I like you, you would say no, sir. You were saying no. Like I told you, I like you or hate you. Just gave you an example. Then you said your body language matters most. So please bridge the gap between your body language, your voice pattern, and your words. If I tell you that I like you, it should be I like you. I like you. You should have my tone is going down. My face has become soft. My body language has become soft. Or if I want to give a very hard message, I don't want you to do it. You see my eyebrows, my expressions, my hand, my voice, my erected body language would tell that I mean a hard message. So always remember to bridge the gap between your words, your voice, and your body language. Okay, let me, for 5 minutes, I always find Dr. Haider Shah, I find like I've not started yet and I feel like time is ending.
Yes, thing is,
Okay,
it's so wonderful, so powerful
okay,
content,
okay.
the way you are
Now for
connecting the
5 minutes,
different things. It's lovely to hear you. Please carry on.
okay, okay, okay. Am I clear? Am I coming clear to you?
Yes, your
Uh,
voice is very much clear. Go ahead,
okay,
please.
okay. Now I'll give you tips of improving your verbal, paraverbal, and non-verbal language, please. Non-verbal communication. Verbal is language. Now everybody remember, language is only a mode of expression. Only a mode of expression. And it only covers up 10% expression. So why would you be worried about 10% so much and you ignore 90%? That is why we never become good communicators. From today, try to improve your 90% with 10%, and you will see you will become excellent communicators. Now, let me tell you what is in there. Language, any language, if you learn, if you cover up four things in any language, I believe you can become proficient speaker or writer in that language. Only four things. Primarily, I'm giving you this out as in reference with English language, okay? Because mode of international communication is English, so you can apply it in any language. Everybody, you must have understanding of parts of speech. Number one, parts of speech. Number two, tenses. Tenses. What are tenses? Timeline. Tenses are nothing. It's a reference of a language in the past, in the present, in the future. Reference of a language in the past, in the present, in the future. So you have three timelines: past, present, future. Okay? So four tenses in each timeline. So हम कहते हैं 12 tenses हैं. White man always says 9 tenses हैं. They would not consider the simple tense as a tense. Okay? So so you have parts of speech. Number two, tenses. Number three, sentence structure. Simple to compound. You cannot remain with simple sentences all the time. I eat, I sleep, I listen, I speak, I play. You cannot. So you have to prolong. I sleep and I play. So longer sentence. I sleep and I play because I want to remain healthy. Much longer sentence. So this is sentence structure. Okay? So parts of speech, tenses, sentence structure, and subject verb agreement. If you cover up these four things properly, you can cover up the whole language. The rest of the grammar is not for you. So please do not be afraid of the grammar. That by for improving grammar, for improving language, you might have to memorize the whole grammar. No, that's a fallacy. That's a myth. To be proficient in a language, become proficient in these four things: parts of speech, tenses, sentence structure, and subject verb agreement. That's it. Your language will be good. Okay, so verbal, cover it up accordingly. I'll come to the paraverbal. What is paraverbal? Paraverbal covers up everything that is there in the vocal cords. These are your vocal cords. Everybody, this is your voice box. You know this place, this larynx, this is your voice box. If you press it, your voice will not come out. If you press it, your voice will not come out. You see that? So this is the voice box. Aspects related to your voice box are called paraverbal communication. What are these? Your tone of voice. Now, the tone is very, very hard in Arab countries. In Asian countries, our tone is very loud. In European countries, tone is quite low. You see that? So, then the pitch. If you see, women have a higher pitch than men. Men have a higher tone. So, it's gender based as well. If a man would try to speak in a female pitch, people will laugh at him. So remember, it carries your volume, then how much voice. If you're putting on a mic, you need to speak at a low voice. If you are speaking to a large audience, you might have to speak a bit louder. But please never speak on the top of your voice. Why? It will make people sick. Use the audio visual aids. Okay, try to move close to people and speak, but do not shout, do not speak at the top of your voice. People will not hear you for long. They'll feel like you are frustrated. Okay, remember that. And then often it happens that when we forget our language, we start coughing. We start doing that. Now these are called vocal segregates. Avoid that. Avoid vocal segregates. A good presentation does not have vocal segregates. Okay? You can speak slow or you can speak a bit fast according to the need, but avoid breaking like avoid that. They are not regarded as good. So this is your voice. Now, how should you use your voice? I will again tell you, use your voice according to the culture in which you are going. If you are going to an Arab culture and giving a presentation there for a business and you speak in a soft voice, Arabs will not like you. They'll say it was a bad presentation, he was a weak person, he was like a female, is not manly, they would not like you. But if you speak with authority, with heavy voice, with loud voice, Arabs will like you. But if you speak loud in Germany, in Japan, they would not understand why are you speaking loud. You see that? So use your voice cleverly. In high context culture, use your voice loudly. I'll come to these two terms, high context and low context, but after giving you the terms. In high context culture, speak a bit loud, be more expressive. In low context culture, keep your voice in control. Okay? Keep your voice steadily going to people. Steadily going to people. Okay? Very, 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 very mature, made up tone. They would like it. Okay? Now, the body language. What is your body language carry? Your body language carries kinesics, that is your facial expressions, hand movements, gestures, postures, and body movements. These are called kinesics. Why do they call kinesics? Hand movements, body movement, eye contact, facial expressions, because all of them work together. That's why they are put under one title, kinesics. Your kinesics must be very sound. My body language, my eye contact, my voice, and my expressions. They should go together to people, in harmony with each other. Otherwise, वही होगा फिर. I hate you, I like you, वही होगा फिर. You see that? आप लोगों को कह रहे होंगे, you love them, and they'll say, no, 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 you don't love me. आप कह रहे होंगे, I like you, वो कहेंगे, no, 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 you don't like me. You see that? तो इसलिए please, एक तो kinesics होगी. Then everybody, I will talk about some other aspects of our body language that we hardly would consider. They are your punctuality, how you use time. Okay, they are your use of space, how close you stand to people or at what distance you stand to people in terms of presentations. Okay, it also involves your use of eye contact, your use of kinesics, your use of dressing, your use of touch, okay, your use of olfactics. Olfactics कहते हैं how your body smells, how is the fragrance of your body. Do you know it also communicates non-verbally? That whether a person's manners are good or not, is he following the hygiene or not, it also speaks about you. And once they consider you as unhygienic person, they would not like your communication even, honestly. So remember, it's head to toe, all aspects of your body, including dressing, including body language, including space, including time, including eye contact, including expressions, including voice, and at the end, the words. So if you can create harmony in them, you will give out excellent messages. You will give out excellent presentations. All right. And for presentations, please, I have also got some notes for you. I don't know whether I can deliver notes through Dr. Heather Shah or not, but I have had presentation checklist with me. I'll drop it to Dr. Heather. If you people want it, you can have it from him. Okay. He can share it with you. I have some excellent presentation checklist notes for you, that whenever you people need to give out presentation, record your presentation on your mobile phone, keep that checklist, tick that checklist for the sections, and you can even self-analyze your own presentation. Okay, that checklist is very professional. Okay, I have made it into 4 sections: your body language, your contents, your space, everything. So agar aap us checklist ko, if you tick it, by ticking maximum of it, you can give out an excellent presentation. So I will deliver the notes to Dr. Heather. Okay, now I'll tell you what is low context and high context culture. Now remember, in communication, there are 2 types of cultures. High context are the cultures like Asian cultures mostly, or in the West, it's like America or Spain. In the West, Americas and Spain in Europe are not low context, they are high context, they are like us. Okay, their body language, their expressions, their way of speaking, it's just like us. Plus, high context cultures give a lot of value to tradition, status in the society, age groups, everyday customs, cultural norms and ethics, and even way of speaking will be strictly cultural. You see that? If you go to high context culture, like Pakistan and India are very good example of high context culture. If you go to Peshawar, all the youngsters would look like behaving like a Pashtun culture, isn't it? Most of the local people. If you go to Lahore, people will be behaving like a culture in Lahore. Very open, very funny, all the time jokes. If you go to Balochistan, you will find even the school children quite reserved. They'll be behaving according to the Baloch culture. You see that? So to bridge the cultural gaps, once you grow up, you need to come out of that shell. You need to come out of that shell by understanding, yaar, this is one culture that is only practiced in my part of the world, and that is high context culture. हम इसमें वैल्यू करते हैं, we value age, status, relationships, tradition. You see, more outward body expressions, more facial expressions, more active hand movements, body gestures. This is called high context culture in communications. Do not be mistaken, this term is also used in marketing as well, high context, low context. But in communication, high context culture is this. Low context culture, like UK, like Germany, like France, like Scandinavian countries, Finland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Northern Europe, mostly they are low context culture. If you see, there is very little movement outside in the body. It's mostly because of the weather doesn't allow it. It's intensely cold weather. They are mostly packed up. They can't move around a lot. So, and their facial expressions are very, very solid, frozen. If you talk to people in the Scandinavian countries, you would feel like they are emotionless unless you see their social side. All right. Formally, they would look quite emotionless. Okay. Yeah. If you go to Britain, you see the CNN people. I mean, they would keep their upper lip flat, only lower jaw moving, no movement in the shoulder, no movement in the hand, and they're speaking out the news like a robot. All right. So the cultures that give more values to the actual spoken words, not how the words are spoken, not the body language, is quite low context culture. In low context cultures, legal contracts, spoken words mean more than the actions, than the body language. A very common example I'll give you. A very common example. If you make a blunder or you make a mistake, in UK or in Scandinavian countries, it is enough for you to tell them, I'm sorry, I apologize. You don't have to cry, oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. You don't have to cry. Simply you tell them, I made this mistake, I apologize. They will take it. They'll take it as an apology. Next day, they will not mention it. But in Asian countries, you tell them, I apologize. Okay, guy, you don't look like apologizing. Unless you weep in front of them. You see remorse. You show low body language. You show low body movements, low tone, a little bit, weeping facial expressions. Only then he would believe in you that you mean sorry. So, in high context cultures, words have to be backed up by tone and by body language. In low context culture, it's often not. It's often not. They will accept your sorry even if you don't act. You don't look like sorry. They'll accept it. And they'll not mention it next day. Well, here, you have to act, you have to show, you have to weep. And even then, the third day, they'll be telling the whole lot, he's the one. He's the one. So we hardly forgive people. High context cultures are very touchy about forgiving and forgetting. Low context cultures are very okay about forgiving and forgetting. But I believe every culture is beautiful in its own essence, in its own genuinity. And this diversity in cultures, in life, is actually the beauty of life. I have started appreciating it. That is why I like it. That's why I happily talk to all the cultures. Okay. Now, these are the basic dynamics of remember communications, that it has verbal, paraverbal, and non-verbal aspects. You have to bridge the gap between all three, and then you have to play this game cleverly. First, bridge the gap, then play this game cleverly. And what do you mean by playing this game cleverly? It's by any culture you go to, understand their culture first, get a little handbook of that cultural everyday communication, get to see what are the touchy aspects, what are the general aspects, what are common aspects, make yourself well versed in it, then talk to local people and you will have acceptability. They'll accept you. And then please create adaptability of living in that culture while not losing your own. I'm not asking you to lose your own culture. Never. I'm only telling you to communicate according to the culture you go into. While living in your own apartment, living in your own house, you can live according to your own culture. But talking to them, you must address the issues. If the Europeans, if the Americans can come out of their culture and talk to us the way we want, we should come out of our culture as well and talk to them the way it actually suits. So it's playing that game cleverly. Remember this thing, everybody. So are we clear about high context and low context cultures in communication?
Yes, completely, please. Go ahead, sir.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Okay. So repeating it, low contexts are the ones that give more importance to actual spoken words. They will not need body language or facial expressions that much. But high context cultures would need body language, acting, facial expressions, voice patterns to back up the words. Okay. For general presentations on any topic, all three personas, verbal persona, non-verbal persona, and your paraverbal persona have to be in line. Have to be in line. Show active body language. They act as language aids. They give more meaning. You see, if I tell you one thing, it is important. Only in voice, you will take it as important, like it is important. But if I say it is important, and then if I say it is important, you see, body language will solidify it. So use your body language and use your voice to give more meanings or extra meanings or more expressions, more feelings to people so that they can understand you completely. And then stage presentation also involves some other aspects. Stage presentation also involves the setting of the stage, okay, the position of and height of the stage, what position you will occupy on the stage, your audio visual aids, your ICT resources, interactive communicative technologies. Okay, if you can have PowerPoint projector, a very clear board, a slide changer in your hand, it will all add up to your communication. Remember this thing. So stage presentation also involved how will you use out the presentation aids. Presentation also includes some of the handouts, some visual aids. You see that? So remember, presentation dynamics are quite different. That is why I was telling you that I have a very, very effective presentation checklist with me. I'll drop it with Dr. Heather. All of you must get it. Next time when you people are going to give your academic presentations or professional presentations, or even if you have to go in front of your mom, dad, or elderly of the family to give out any other presentation, all right, you can tick that checklist. Now remember, it is not for the human beings to become perfect, except one thing. I'm not asking you to become perfect. I'm not asking you to 100% tick that list. No, you cannot do it. If you do it, that will be fault. That will be another mistake. You cannot become perfect. Yet, you have to behave in the best possible manner, best possible way of expression. So, I am not expecting you to tick everything on the list. But if you tick maximum, your presentation will be good. Okay? Like, for example, if you are giving a presentation out in open air and there are no audio visual aids, how will you tick the audio visual sections? You will never be able to take audio visual section. So presentation is according to situation. Tick only the relevant things, relevant sections, and if you tick the maximum, your presentation will become very powerful, very effective. And then please, the biggest stakeholder in all that process is the listener. So understand your audience. Okay? I was at the moment, I have delivered you everything about you now. Only couple of minutes to the biggest stakeholder in the communication is the other person, other unit, whether it's one person or the audience of 10 people or 10 million people, it does not matter. Okay, it's still the audience. So understand your audience, please. And what will you understand your audience on? The level of your audience. भाई पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं, intellectual हैं, educated or uneducated, layman, common people. What kind of audience you have, so that you can get your expressions accordingly. Put your language easy or difficult according to the audience. Use your vocabulary properly. Use your tone properly. Okay, and then understand the cultures in your audience. Which cultures your audience is coming from. Like in Islamabad, we have a very, very diverse culturally audience, culturally diverse classrooms, and you have to be very clever as a teacher in culturally diverse classrooms. I'm telling you, I've been counseling people, I've been a cluster head here. Most of the communication, most of the problems that the students would come to me and present to me about faculty are not the personal issues, are the communication issues. They say, sir, वो हमारे से बात करते हैं, they would tell you about, they talk to us by staring at us in front of other class fellows, they raise their voices. We are not used to the raised voices. Like if you talk to a student from tribal areas and you take your voice loud to him without any reason, he'll tell you in a couple of minutes, sir, क्या मसला है यार, इतना गुस्सा क्यों करते हो? What's wrong with you, sir? What's wrong with your tone? Talk to me properly. If you talk to in raised voice, howsoever, to a person living in a city, they might take it. But person coming from villages, they will not take it. And that is how I have most of the issues coming to me of the teachers that are culturally communication issues. They would not address it. Simply, a teacher would think, I am a teacher, I am a single person, I'll behave same way with everybody. No. That's a wrong approach. While I'm not saying do not act or do not justify your behavior. Justify your behavior in the same manner by behaving same with everybody in dealings. In communication, behave according to the cultures, please. And you'll have a better feedback. Same goes for the professional life in the offices. If you find your couple of workers from different cultures behave according to their culture, talk to them accordingly. Talk to the other people according to their culture. And believe you me, they will understand you more. I'm not saying they'll start liking you. It's very hard to like anybody, but they'll understand more. They'll understand maximum of the message. And then at the end of the day, keep an open mind. keep an open heart. The moment you close your heart, the moment you close your mind, your body language, your voice will be spoiled. The moment I get lazy, my body language is gone. So I have to be active all the time. I have to show myself. And I would often tell Dr. Heather that you find me often smiling and behaving in a very polite manner. You have not seen me back home yet. You know that.
Yeah.
you know, but it reminds me everybody of Shakespeare, who once said, all the world's a stage and all of us are actors. So communication is playing that game properly, playing that acting game properly. Okay?
Yes.
When you're sitting alone or in your own culture, that's a very different thing. But when coming out of it, behaving, meeting with different cultures, meeting with different nationalities, meeting with different age groups, meeting with different genders, you have to come out of your own culture, break the barriers, and become universal communicator. And that is how you will not be able to dislike anybody or have arguments with anybody. Like on journal level, you can communicate with anybody. All right. So this is what is the crux of it. I still feel there's a lot much to talk to, but I do know there's a shortage of time, everybody. And I would now like to go back to Dr. Heather. If there are any confusions, any issues, any questions, we may carry the session on, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sir Tipu Ismail. It was a wonderful presentation and wonderful talk you have given. I was so much highly engaged and I was deeply engaged with what you were saying, and I was connecting the different things that, yes, even being a faculty member, sometimes we miss these kind of things and these things. You have mentioned very rightly and you have connected very rightly that what are the verbal, non-verbal, and all these paranormal, all the things which are connected. And what you said, I love that thing, that we are connected for the 10%. We are concerned about the 10% is so much, but we have neglected the 90%, which actually conveys all the things. And particularly, what you have mentioned is the role of the culture. Most of the time, we
Okay.
neglect
If I
this
may,
role of the culture. Yes, please.
okay. Okay, I will relate it to a very common incident that happened here at the uni. I was once
Yes.
training people from headquarters, and headquarters have all the management posts.
Yes. True.
And when I came to the sentence that we all know the communication practice, we all understand the behavior, but we don't do accordingly. So they told me, sir, what do you mean? I said, sir, suppose you are a director and your subordinate has committed some mistakes. Now, rules are there to address those mistakes. But you will call him and you will raise your tone, you will show aggressive body language, you will show you are in anger. Why would you show that? That's personal. Why would you do that? That creates grievances. That creates personal grievances. That person would say कि आपने उसको बेइज्जत किया, you have disrespected him. But if you tell him, Mr. So and so, please come in, have a
Yeah.
seat. As I have told you that there are certain implications for certain violations. I have
Yes.
warned you the last time. Yeah, please bring the tea for sir. Bring the tea for sir. And then you say,
Yeah.
I'm very sorry, but I have to give you a warning letter. I don't believe anybody would mind. I don't believe
Yes.
anybody would mind. But we never do that. We always put our own personality into the other's mistake. We show
Yes.
ourselves we are aggressive, we are superior, we are your officers in the voice, in the mannerism. And that is why other persons would create grievances. And that's a very failed state of communication. Honestly
Yes.
telling you.
Very true. Very
When
true.
rules are there to address, you are not allowed to put your own self in. I
Yes.
hope you are
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah, no, very rightly said. And I believe that, Satiku Ismail, this is what we need. This is the need of the hour, that we have to change ourselves in a way that people could be treated with respect. Because when you give a respect, obviously they will respect you back in a much better behave, in a much better performance as well. Because in profession, what we want, or the employer, what they want is the better performance, a good
Yes.
working environment. And this is
Yeah.
what employee wants as well, that he should be treated with respect, and in a reciprocate way he will perform better with the good manner as well. So lovely presentation. It's always pleasure and it's
My
always
pleasure.
lovely to listen to you.
Thank you.
Since I joined Behria, I have you are my mentor. You have been my ideal because the way
It's a
you were
pleasure,
there
sir.
in my
It's a pleasure.
orientation session. I'm telling the audience that he was in my orientation session and he was there to guide us that how we should deliver a lecture and what the weaknesses we could remove. And he were very kind enough and he told us so many wonderful tips. And even today, I follow the same tips and it is very helpful. And that's why we requested him to come and share his wonderful experiences and tips with the our audience around the world to listen to him and Sir Tipo Ismail, we have some questions for you. Should we
Please.
start question and answer session, please?
Please. I'm
Yes,
looking forward.
yes.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. First of all, thank you very much
Yes.
for it. And I was as excited as I was yesterday with you. We both were very excited
True.
yesterday. And the
True.
evidence is that we are right here today as well. So I enjoyed the session thoroughly, and your company is always pleasure giving, Dr. Heather.
Thank you so much. So kind of you. We really love you for your lovely behavior and lovely temperament, everything. Okay, the first question, which you have already addressed, is our common student who is Ibrahim. He has already asked for the how to measure and assess the effective communication. You are kind enough that you will be providing us the checklist so that we could analyze by ourselves. So that question has already been answered.
Okay, I will try
And
to add up.
yes,
I will try to
please.
add up to it. You can keep that checklist, but the main mode of practicing is that everybody nowadays you have been given an edge by technology. There are so many innovations and inventions. You can have your smartphone in your room, put it in front of you, lit your room properly, get ready into the dress of rehearsal, presentation,
Yes,
and record your presentation. And then
yes,
become the first judge of your own presentation yourself
true,
by having that
true.
checklist. And if you
Yes,
if you tick that checklist through that recording, believe you me,
yes,
then take the second opinion from your friends and then go out present, and you will see big difference.
yes. Very rightly said. Nice suggestion again. The role of technology is no doubt very important nowadays. That brings to the another question, that is there a fundamental change in communication techniques or fundamentals in today's digital or online communication, please?
Okay, basically the hallmark of communication is live extempore communication. And
True.
why we say that it is the richest channel is because the speaker and the listener both are present in front of each other in the live situation. Now, in that situation, they can remove any confusion, any barrier on the spot.
True.
Now, while problem with the digital communication or communication through gadgets is the proficiency or technical capabilities of these gadgets.
Yes.
Like it's a very good example in Pakistani situation where we are not very good at technology. Our internet connections are not very good. Electricity problems are there. Software problems are there. So for us, digital communication might not let us take the message across properly. And there are
Yes.
so many, at times picture is not there, at times the voice disappears. And imagine your voice disappears when you're giving an impact factor sentence and your voice
Yes.
disappears.
True.
So I believe America, Japan, or China might have a good technological edge while communicating through gadgets. But third
Yes.
world countries have to go long way, have to go
Yes.
long way. And if I give you an example, because of the student who is a local student, he might understand. Dr. Heather, you have seen our conference room in headquarter building.
Yes. I have seen it. Yes.
It is made for headquarter actually.
Yes.
If we need to digitally communicate, we need to have every classroom like that.
Mm.
You have
True.
screen here, you have screen here, you have screen right
Yes.
there. You can see yourself, you can see the
Everywhere.
audience,
True.
and then the connection has to be superb.
Wonderful.
Like I'm waiting for the connection of this Elon Musk one. You know that coming recently. He
Yeah.
says everywhere, anywhere you can connect and you'll have a light speed. So I'm waiting for that connection to come. I believe that will be a big breakthrough in digital communication because we keep
Yes.
on breaking. I don't think
Exactly.
it's the human factor, it's a technological factor that's a barrier.
Yes, true, very nicely said. And that's the beauty of the expert. When you ask the question, they will answer in such a wonderful way, so that they could explain each and everything, and they include everything in that.
Okay,
Okay,
I'll give you an
yes,
example of to the students of last
please.
1 year's classes. Did we
Yeah,
did we digitally communicate properly?
yeah.
In the last 1 year classes, you have your answer.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. That brings me to another question, which you have already covered in your presentation. That was regarding the importance of listening. But that gentleman wants to ask further that what listening techniques would you give to them, please?
Okay. Okay, आपने बड़ा एक different question किया है. Normally, people would not ask about listening at all because they do not
Yes.
consider listening as part of communication.
Very true. Very true. That's why I was keen to ask this question from you, because this gentleman
Okay.
asked the other perspective of the same coin. Yes,
Okay,
please.
I hope you have heard that very famous quote that most of us would communicate to talk, not to understand, just
Yes,
to
very
reply.
often.
You see
True,
that?
true.
So I will
They are.
start with this.
Yes,
I
please.
believe, and I must tell you, I told you about four integrated skills of language. Listening is one skill of language.
True,
If there's no language, you would not listen. Why would you listen? You can see the
true,
body language. It's only the
true.
voice and the language that you keep on listening. Okay. Please
Yes,
create a difference between hearing and listening.
yes,
Hearing is, it happens because of the ears. It is one
true.
of the five senses, hearing. But
Yes.
making sense in the hearing is listening.
Mhm. Very right. Very
Now,
nice.
if I tell you, what is this? Somebody who told me, sir, it is clicking the fingers.
True.
And then somebody else told me, sir, you want the things to happen quickly. Now, first person heard me, second
Yes.
person listened to me. You get
Yeah.
it?
True. True.
When you make sense in the sounds you hear, it becomes listening. And I must tell you, out of four integrated skills of language, they are reading, writing, listening, and speaking. You
True.
will be shocked hearing that reading and writing only covers up 20% of our lifetime.
Oh. Oh.
Reading
Oh.
and writing only covers up 20% of our lifetime.
Oh. Oh.
Almost 30 to 35% is covered up by your speaking skill, and 45% is covered up by your listening.
Oh. Oh. Such a huge portion.
So I will tell you
Yes.
one thing, as good a listener you are, as good a speaker you would be.
Yes.
Because listening
Good.
will help you, listening will help you learn, will help you
True.
grab, will help you adapt, will help you learn things. Okay, if you listen.
Yes.
Okay, so I
Yes.
believe
True.
uh, some techniques for listening is again creating harmony in the environment, is not with the intention of replying all the time. Do not
Yes.
communicate with the intention of replying all the time. You will become a better listener, you'll give others some importance. Then
True.
please use empathy while listening. We are mostly very selfish, and we either turn sympathetic or antipathetic while listening. Either we
True.
judge, we become critical judge, or we become
Yes.
totally
Very
sympathetic.
nice. Very
Please
nice.
try to listen to
And
other
that's
person for the
completely
sake of understanding. And you can do it by showing little empathy. Empathy means
true.
feeling in the shoes of others. If somebody is telling me
Yes.
his grief, I should become sad and listen to him. I should become
Yes.
sad, show my and listen. If somebody is sharing his happiness with me, I should become a little happy and listen. You see that? So
True.
I must be empathetic, adaptable. Okay, give respect to others.
Yes.
Give priority to others, and not listen to reply. Listen to understand, please. To understand.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and
True.
it's a very funny thing. Often how I see it is also impulsive as well. You see that all these youngsters and all these young ladies and young boys and young girls and young gentlemen, it's very hard for
True.
them to accept. Why? Because they are so young. They are so young, energetic. They'll keep on speaking so much time on speaking, but after
Yeah.
40, you will spend more time on listening. You see
Yes.
that? Why? Because the
True.
energies are low, you are going down, you become more wise. It's a sign of
Yes.
wisdom to listen
True.
more. See that?
Yes.
So
Yes.
these are
True.
some of the non-traditional tips that I found very useful. But it all starts with accepting other in the situation he is in, becoming totally empathetic, feeling in his shoes, and then listening, not to reply. Rather, I will give you a very good advice of holding yourself back, holding
True.
your opinions back till the time you completely would listen and share the feelings, and then
True.
speak afterwards if you want to. Give some gap,
Yes.
please. Okay.
Yes, very nice suggestion, and what elaboration you have given to the audience. It's so wonderful, and it's always pleasure while listening to your
My
recommendation.
pleasure.
And I like
My
your
pleasure.
analogy and your examples that you give, the practical examples you have given to our audience. And I'm sure the people would have enjoyed a lot of your presentation, as I could see that I always enjoy talking to you. Even I come across in the galleries or somewhere else in the corridor, I always love to see you, to speak with you. It's so
Sir,
wonderful. Yes,
actually,
yes,
actually,
please.
for me, communication is my life, and
True.
I want to make every moment I spend
Yes.
with others profitable and notable.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Wonderful. I like your positivity and your way of life, that the way you see the world. It's so wonderful. Okay, we have one another question, sir, that
Please.
why there is a less emphasis on the importance of proper communication skills and presentation skills in our education system. Please enlighten us about it.
Okay. There's very less emphasis, everybody. I told you it's because of there's no uniformity in education policy that we have. We had two very different education streams were going on, as you people see. And the problem that you have spoken out is not everywhere. Is I can see probably the person who has posed the question is from traditional stream of education, matric, FABA,
True, true,
because
very true.
people from private system, they would never pose this question. Okay,
Yes,
so
true.
you must understand that all through our education system, that is traditional education system, formal education system of our boards, metric and FABA system, this system is very poor in communication practices. All through our lives, we have been taught कि language के लिए English grammar सीख लो और grammar में भी reading and writing, reading and writing, reading and writing, and
True,
no focus on the presentation skill.
true.
That is why our even graduate, even after graduation from Punjab University or other universities, our graduate cannot give a simple presentation which an O-level boy would give out. You see that? And
True.
it is simply because there is no emphasis in the education policy.
Yeah.
Partly because every generation was very weak in communication. They never they never learned communication as it has to be, the dynamics of
True.
communication. This is a
True.
very new subject in our context in Asian countries, I'll tell you. And still, I don't see any degree in effective communication skills. You have degrees up to PhD in Western countries for effective communication practices, cultural, everything. But there is no degree. There are degrees in linguistics, language, and literature. Okay,
Yes.
not in communication skills. So,
Yes.
and all we do is we are forced either by our professional, organizations, or by our education needs, or by our presentations which are marked. We are forced by our teacher to prepare it. It's never
Yes.
done voluntarily. All right.
Yeah. True.
So what
True.
we do is we do it to take promotion. We prepare the presentation and effective skill of presentation to take marks, to raise the grade, to raise the CGPA, and then when we go back to our social lives, we become the same people we were. So what's the point?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
the point?
Yes.
If you
True.
want to
True.
improve the communication, improve it all around, please, and it will help you a lot. It'll help you a lot.
Yeah.
So our education system,
Yeah.
it actually fails to address it. The student or the gentleman who has posed the question is absolutely right about it. And I believe the main reason is that our previous generations, one were very weak in even the language, and then they had no understanding of dynamics of communication at all. That is why
Yeah.
our teachers were even swearing people in the classrooms, cursing them in the classrooms, beating them in the classrooms. If they would understand the body language or the culture aspects, they would never do that.
Yeah. Very nicely said once again, Sir Tipu Ismail. One last question, which is very wonderful. We just received that you talk about the technology and use of technology. Even you refer to the example of that record the presentation and then watch for yourself and try to analyze yourself. The question is very much related to it. The person wants to ask that what is the role of smartphones in our communication skills, because we are not using it in the brighter side, but we are using it in the negative side, because it has already damaged our abbreviation kind of things, that we are more inclined towards the abbreviation. So how do you see the role of smartphones in communication skills? Yes, please.
Okay, I would agree with the gentleman that
Yes.
the thing that is actually spoiling is not the smartphone in itself. Is actually me spending too much time on that smartphone.
True. Very true.
You see that? It's the gadget
Yes.
has nothing to do with its gadget is never right or wrong. You see that that's a very, very obsolete traditional approach that there is something wrong with the gadget. Nothing wrong with the gadget. Yet,
Wonderful.
the use of the gadget, if you spend too much time on it, it has the capability of spoiling you. I agree with it because I
Yeah.
have studied the history of software applications and I know about that the proper neuroscience is involved in software application and
Yes.
neuroscientists come software developers, they know what things are stimuli for the brains for certain cultures and they use
True.
such colors, shapes, apps that they make you addictive. You see, don't
Yes.
you see how the kids are addictive to it? Why? Because neuroscientists knew what
True.
to grab the imagination of kids from. So they give
Yes.
the kids such aspects, such games, the kids would totally be lost in them. Even if you call them, they would not know that you've called them. So
Exactly.
please manage your time with the gadget. And once you communicate on the gadget, you use it for any purpose. Please try to put it aside.
Yeah.
Please drop the habit of carrying it all the time in the hand. You see
Yeah.
that?
Yes.
And that is
True.
why I've used the term with the students, we have all become mobile zombies, mobo zombies. You know that?
Yeah. Yeah. Very
See,
nice. Very nice.
all the time, our position is this.
Like exactly. True. Yes.
And you know, the biggest activity we keep on doing on mobile is checking
True.
what is on the
Yeah.
mobile, whether somebody remembered us, text is there or not. Though the
Exactly.
bells are
Exactly.
there, the tones are there, but the biggest activity is checking the mobile.
Exactly.
So
And we spend
I
a
would
lot
tell
of
you,
time on checking the our cell
yes.
phone mostly. True.
So I would advise the gentlemen and the ladies to please manage your time on the mobile phone. Do not let the mobile phone take your extra time. Otherwise, the gentleman is right. Mobile phone will make you addictive and it will eventually spoil your communication. By making you addictive, you will be less social, you will be talking less to people, you'll be meeting less to people, and everything will be done through gadget, and you will become more mechanistic than humanistic.
Exactly. Very nice analogy. Wonderful answer. And that's what they say, that technology is for you. You are not for technology. Don't become the
Exactly.
slave of the technology. Take
Exactly.
advantage of the technology. And that's a wonderful. Sir Tipu Ismail, please, what is your message to the world as a researcher, teacher, trainer, learner, professional, and educator? Yes, please.
Okay. Well, I would deliver my personal message to the world will be that we are already living in very frustrating and painful times. Okay.
Mm,
Try to accommodate others. Try to create easiness for others, please. Okay.
true.
Try to accept others so that at least your time on earth will be spent in peace. And please,
Oh,
it's acceptability. Okay. We are
true.
already living in very frustrated times. So please
Yes.
take a step back, humble yourself down, and give your time to other and help to others, please. That's it. That's my message.
Wonderful message once again to the world. You have given Sir Tipu Ismail. So wonderful. I
Thank you so much.
always enjoy talking to you. I always learn from you. That's the attraction in your personality, that whenever you speak, you have such a powerful content. You have a lot of energy. I could see that when you were presenting the presentation, I always say that you are a very kind person, very humble person, and
Thank you
always
so much,
you
sir.
are full of positivity, full of impact. Thank you very much that you have you are with us as a colleague in Bahari University. We are always enjoy your company. So, what's
Thank you.
your concluding remarks, and then we very close to the session. Yes,
Well, my
please.
concluding remarks are again that the hallmark of communication is acceptability of others' opinions, acceptability of
Okay.
others. And I'll
Yeah.
conclude it by saying, I mean, God is very kind on me, and I always pray to God to keep me clear in the hearts of the people. And I believe even if you leave this world, people remember you in good words, with a life well lived. That's what
Yes.
I. That's what I'm looking
Yes.
for. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Such a powerful message you have given to the world once again. And we will definitely hold another session for you, because we are getting a lot of requests that please invite him again for a next session, because the time for this session has already been ended. And we loved your this session, and the people, they have given a warm response to your presentation. They loved
Thank you,
and
sir.
they
Thank you,
liked your
sir.
presentation too much. At the end, what I would say that yes, I do believe that in order to grow individually as well as an organizational member, we have to develop our communication skills as well as the presentation skills. Indeed, a wonderful explanation and a wonderful content with such a great speaker, which will help you to learn and develop such skills. Take advantage of all the information, important tips, and suggestions shared by an expert. Thank you very much once again, Sir Tipu Ismail. That's
Thank you,
all
sir.
we have time for today. Thank you, sir. And I would like to thank our audience who joined us. If you have additional questions about the information shared today, please email to us, or you can directly connect to the speaker through his email or social media. We will provide his information. Thank you all for your support and liking our sessions. Stay tuned, because many more sessions are on the way. And please do not miss any session. So, till next time, please take care of yourself. Stay blessed. Bye bye.